This is the Martial Arts Lifestyle Podcast, where we have conversations with everyday martial artists about their histories and how martial arts influence their daily lives. You are listening to the abbreviated version of this podcast, which is the first 20 minutes or so of the show. Please consider supporting the show by subscribing on our Patreon page, www.patreon.com/MALMAG, and for about the price of one coffee shop coffee per month, you can get access to 4 new podcasts each month, 1 week before their YouTube release dates. You also have access to all of our existing shows, which at this point is about 100 hours of shows for you to enjoy. Individual shows can be purchased at our Gumroad page. That is malmag.gumroad.com. If you're looking for some sticks for FMA, some cool t-shirts, or even a course on Dos Manos, have a stop by martialartslifestylemagazine.com and click on the store tab or on the courses tab for that course. This week, I get on Zoom and I connect to Virginia and I talk with Stephen Mullins, and we talk about the influence of the Kung Fu series in getting him into martial arts, integration of Chinese philosophy into his martial arts, his interviewing of some JKD luminaries, putting JKD's 5 ways of attack into use, and being part of Jeet Kune Do in Virginia in the early days, and much more. Sit back and enjoy. Martial Arts Lifestyle Podcast, and today I am hooking up to the East Coast of the United States through Zoom and through a lot of effort on my guest part to connect. This gentleman actually has a background in radio, so I'm hoping that I won't look too amateurish. Stephen Mullins, thank you for joining us on the show. Appreciate it.
Tim, I'm quite honored that you even asked me. So I'm quite happy to speak with you.
Of course, you know, it's funny because I do like big episodes. For instance, like we just had 100 is coming out actually tonight as we pre-record. Episode 100 is Jeff Amata, so I got a chance to sit down with him, and so you know I've known him for quite a while, and so some of those milestone numbers, you know, I'll go out and try to grab somebody with a big name and what have you, but the rest of the show really, and even when you hear the interview with him, it's about people's personal stories. It's really not this big fancy idea of I'm going to get all this grand whatever from all the super famous people. It really is kind of about getting to know people and personal stories, which has always been the thing that's much more interesting to me. So, you know, with you, we kind of connected through internet, through all the crazy insanity of social media and the cesspool that martial arts becomes on there. And it's funny because you start to identify, I think, like-minded people, or what I would say non-crazy people in that regard. And I find that I, you know, kind of connect to them. And I think you were one of those people. So I thought you might be a very interesting person to talk to.
Well, you'll find out in the next little bit.
Yeah, sure. You know, we'll know.
That's the great thing about the future, is you have no idea what's going to happen. That makes it exciting, Tim. It's exciting. It would be much more boring if you had some good inclination as to the way things are going to go. It's much better this way. We all sit around and worry about the future. There's no reason to worry. It's what's going to be is going to be. So, what do you do?
That's true.
It's your attitude that's the most important thing about that. Anyway,
absolutely. You know, we think about that in sporting events. We've got the World Series going on right now. If you knew how they were all going to end, there would be no point in watching.
It's no fun.
That's right. Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, why don't you tell us how you got involved in martial arts, the where, why, when, and how?
Well, I remember somewhere when I was, I don't know, 7, 8 years old, I was paying attention to all the martial arts that were in TV shows and movies. And I watched The Green Hornet, as so many people did. I was a kid, I watched Batman, and
Uh-huh.
Batman and Robin are always using, some kind of martial arts move, and then
You
of course
with
the
cool
one where
sound
they
effects flying out in the air for us to read, pow,
yeah,
and all that. Yeah.
bang, pow, and all that. So, I had this kind of semi-interest, there was the James Bond movie.
Oh yeah.
Every James Bond movie has some kind of martial arts of some kind, but I think it was Live or Let Live or The Island of
Live and
Doctor
Let Die.
whoever.
Yeah.
Yeah, Live and Let
Or you
Die.
got
Yeah,
like what was
right
it?
with the
The one
ninjas.
You Only Live Twice, where he was the ninja. Yeah,
Yeah,
You
that's
Only
it.
Live Twice. Yeah, yeah.
That's it. Thanks. You can be my fact checker as we go
Got
along.
it. Yeah,
That's
I
it.
you know what? I can't remember where my keys are, but I can remember stuff like that, lyrics to
Right.
songs I didn't even like 40 years ago.
Right. So there was already a kind of a small interest just because people who were young in the mid to late 60s, early 70s were starting to see more and more martial arts. Most of it was Japanese based. And then I started noticing the Koreans, where the Korean veterans were coming back. There was more talk about Tang Soo Do, Mudok Kwan, Taekwondo, Harangdo, and all of those.
Hmm.
But somewhere about my sister went to a local college, which I went to too. But I was somewhere about 11 or 12 years old, and I went with her because she took a, as we called it, karate class, a
Right.
karate class. And it was I was just fascinated. We were in a gym and I was sitting in the bleachers. Everybody's got a gi on, and the sensei has the black belt, and he brought a few of his people with him. Somebody was a brown belt, somebody was a green belt, somebody was a yellow belt, and everybody else was white belts because, this was like their first experience with karate. And I believe this was either Shito-ryu or Shorin-ryu, one of the two,
Okay.
because I remember the S, and later, I guess, I thought, well, it's not Shotokan, so it's got to be either Shorin-ryu or Shito-ryu.
And there was a
Um,
Rue, I guess,
there was
clearly.
some kind of ryu, and then I had to learn, a little Japanese as time went on. But anyway, that I was just fascinated with the whole, um, people in line, bowing, and the teaching of the kata and a little bit of kumite, a little sparring, not much. And just the respect for the sensei. It was very traditional. And wearing the gi, the gi is, when you first see it, it's pretty amazing. You think, oh, this gives you special magic powers. And then of course,
Yeah.
as time goes on, you grow up and realize it doesn't really matter what you're wearing. You know.
Right.
So these guys that feel like they have to wear the traditional dress, whether their instructor makes them or not, is just kind of silly. So, t-shirts and shorts is typically gonna it's gonna that's gonna be more of the JKD type experience, which
Sure.
is,
But
you
fashion brings you in,
I
you
mean,
think
you
about it. That's why the military tries to look cool in
sure.
their uniforms and everything. Yeah.
Well, yeah, that's the beautiful thing about a uniform. Yeah, and women love it. Women love a uniform, so why not, right? There's
Yeah,
even
exactly.
even bigger reason to wear a uniform. But I was fascinated, and that's really what really kicked me into finding out more. Within a year or two, and again, I didn't keep copious notes about when these things happened, but a year or two later, I was actually able to take a karate class in the summer. It was in a local town, and this was Goju-ryu.
Okay.
And so it was a little different, but it's very similar. Everything's chambered, but Goju-ryu is
Hmm.
nice because it means hard soft style, and some of the stuff looked actually rather Chinese with the open hand strikes and
Right.
some of the grappling that they do in strike, and then the rest of it looked like Shotokan or any of the basic Okinawan Japanese styles. So I did that for a summer. I was quite disappointed, and I'm still kind of irritated at the fact that my mother and father would not let me keep taking the class, mainly because A, it costs money.
Yeah, there's that. Yeah.
B, they would have to be the ones to drive me to the class, which was about
Uh,
25, 30 minutes away, 2 nights a week or 3 nights a week, whatever it was. And they weren't going to do that. But that's okay because I got my feet wet. And there was actually, I had a science teacher, I remember in the seventh grade. So I would have been about 13, and he actually taught me he was a Goju-Ryu guy. He's the one who told me about the class. He actually came to some of those classes, and he actually taught me some of the first, I think the first three kata in Goju-Ryu. So
okay.
I was
Yeah.
actually practicing that before I actually went to the class. And then afterward, I've always been kind of a self-learner anyway.
Hmm.
And so if you just give me a taste of something, then I can do my own research. And that's really what I've done. It's like high school and college was merely getting me to the place where I could do my own learning. I could do my own research. I could do my own reading, my own writing. That's called,
I think you discovered the secret of actually what that is, because I think too many people misunderstand, formal education as the be all end all. I'm like, it was like I was telling Henry Mosquera, who's the episode right here before you, and we went to college together, he and I.
oh, you
And
did?
the funny thing is, yeah, and I didn't know him there. I knew him at the Inosanto Academy, and it turns out we had gone to college together in Miami at the same time, and just basically we're kind of running circles around each other because we know a lot
Uh-huh.
of the same people.
Right.
And I told him, I said, when I stepped up for that diploma, when they call my name out, I was all happy, get up, shake the hands of the dean of the school, take a hold of this degree. And by the time I got to the other end of the stage, the stairs to walk down, I thought, shouldn't I know more about this than I know now? And I
Mhm.
thought, you know what? All I know is where to start. And so,
Right.
yeah, I think you're right. That this really what it's designed for. So it's good that that's how you looked at it, I think.
I think that's called being an autodidactic person, which just means once you get going, you don't really need an instructor or a teacher
Right,
or a professor because you know how to learn, because that was part of
right.
what you were being taught in high school and college. And you're right about the degrees. I know a lot of idiots who have degrees, but on the other hand, that's not an excuse not to promote higher education either. Some
Yeah,
people use
exactly.
that. Well, I know people, they have a degree and they're stupid. Well, if you don't educate yourself, you're pretty stupid yourself, buddy.
And I try
So,
to say I know a lot more without degrees that are
right,
stupid.
right. That's true. Right. So we know people who have degrees who are experts in their field, or we may not know them, but we've read about them, we've watched programs on them, and that's a different situation. But yeah, I feel the same way. I know a few people who have degrees who are stupid, but I know a whole bunch of other people who aren't stupid,
That's right.
right? So that's kind of where it started. And then and in the early days, this would have been the early to mid 70s, it was primarily Japanese based. But
Right.
then, like some people, like you, me, and a bunch of other people in the JKD clan, we somehow caught the Bruce Lee bug. And mine was a little later. I was actually in the mid 70s. I was a little more influenced by the Kung Fu series with David Carradine.
Right.
Because
Yeah. Yeah.
I had, besides the Green Hornet, I had not seen a single Bruce Lee movie. It was
Right.
years. It was several years. I think it was 1980 something when I first
Oh,
saw
sure.
Enter the
Well, because they
Dragon.
were they were age restricted, right? They were rated R. So unless you were
Yeah,
old enough to really see them, where Kung Fu came on the television, that was in our
yeah,
living room once a week. Yeah.
yeah. And that was a great show. And in fact, I bought the whole DVD set just so I could have them and watch them.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, it was about 3 years ago. My wife and I went through the entire series. I'd like to do it again because
Yeah.
there's a lot of good stuff in there,
Oh yeah, the
you know.
philosophy and everything is just amazing. Yeah.
And I started using the phrase, "What would Cain do?"
That's a good one.
WWCD.
Right,
What
right,
would Shang Cain do? And I find that this character's approach, not David Carradine, who was an actor and was
right.
not, he wasn't, as he used to say, he didn't want to be confused with Cain because he wasn't that nice, you know, as he proved over and over again, to
Yeah, and I mean,
people.
he played some villains over the days, right? He was
Yeah,
a
and
really
he
good
could,
bad guy in a Chuck Norris film once.
and talk to some of the directors and the other actors, he could be a little difficult to work with
Yeah,
sometimes.
sure.
But anyway, but his character of Cain, I think, is a great one. I think that's one of the messages behind the martial arts that any martial artist ought to promote, is that kind of view,
Right.
that kind of outlook, um, which is it's very Taoist in nature,
Yeah,
and it's also very Buddhist in nature. Of course, those two go together in China, because
right.
the Chinese, as they picked up Mahayana Buddhism, they couldn't understand the Indians. No sex, no alcohol, no rich foods. Chinese people did not understand that because they were very earthy, and they liked
Yeah,
having a lot of kids, and they liked having a good drink every now and then. So a lot of those images from original Buddhism they get changed because the atmosphere there is Taoism. So they
right,
reinterpret a lot of the symbols and the stories in a more Taoist way. And it's obvious it has a Taoist flavor to it when you get to what's called Chan Buddhism. But anyway,
hmm,
so yeah, it was more of the Kung Fu series on TV that got me interested in not just the physical side of the martial arts, but also the mental, the spiritual side too. But then I did get the Bruce Lee bug, and I remember exactly when it was. There was an article. I kept all my martial arts magazines from all those years. They're in storage right now, but I have them all. And I
good
remember
man, good man.
there was the one, and so many people list this as the one that made it click for them, and you probably have it. And it's the one, I can't remember. It wasn't Inside Kung Fu. It was and it wasn't black belt. It was another fighting arts, something.
Fighting Stars or
No, not Fighting Stars, but the other one,
martial
Fighting.
art movies.
And it's the story. You'll know the one because like everybody has it. It's the one where
Mhm.
they interviewed Dan and Santo, and they basically said, let's see what has happened to Jeet Kune Do since Bruce Lee has died. So this is like what,
Oh,
19
fighting arts. Yeah, yeah.
fighting
There's
arts. That's it.
yeah, yeah. They actually have the. It's probably a copy, like a photocopy of it. But have you ever been to the Inosanto Academy before?
I have not. I have never
Okay.
been. I've never been to California. Period.
Oh, okay. Well,
No,
if you ever come
never
out,
have.
so when you walk in the door, there's a kind of a foyer there where the front office person, where you meet them, and in that foyer, there's a lot of copies in frame of these magazine covers, and that particular one that you're talking about is there. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I keep reading online, and a lot of people post on Facebook. For a lot of people my age, uh, that was the article that grabbed them and had their interest. And I
Hmm.
read that and I thought, you know what? Bruce Lee was on to something. This sounds like totally different from any of the karate that I had been practicing, and so much better and so much more fluid and open and less traditional, you know, in fact, uh, pretty non-traditional, because, Bruce Lee, interesting guy, having both the Eastern influence as well as the Western influence. So
Hmm.
a lot of his thoughts, I think, can be seen as this amalgamation of how he blended both Eastern and Western thinking, from philosophy to arts to training methods. Everything he does seems very Western scientific method
Right.
based. He wasn't the type to just swallow what some sifu or pendekar or guru or sensei happened to say is the way to do it, and this is the best way, and this always works, and you have to believe me. That's a religion.
Right.
That's
Yeah.
religious thinking. That's and it's traditional. It's I have an authority above me that tells me what to do. I follow it like a good lemming.
Right.
All right. And Bruce was totally opposed to that. He was trying to get away from that kind of traditionalist view. But at the same time, and you see this at the end, it's one of the last pages in the Tao of Jeet Kune Do that was published after his death. There's that line in there that uh, to reject classical martial arts is as big a mistake as to swallow it whole and to go, yeah, this is perfect. This works for everybody. This is the ultimate martial art. And of course, I'm paraphrasing. But the point
Right.
is, you can use and you have to use classical martial arts in order to paint your own picture.
Right. You have to
it,
have a foundation, right?
yeah. And it's like the Filipino martial arts, there, those gurus talk about, okay, I can give you the alphabet, but you have to put the words in the sentence to create your own story.
Right.
So those building blocks are important. So you can't just say, like it would be like for me to say, everything I learned in Gojo-Ryu karate was just bullshido. It's just it's it's not true. It's horrible. There's actually a few things in Gojo-Ryu that to this day I still use. And I
Oh
still
yeah.
practice and I have taught. Why? Because I'm bound to the Gojo-Ryu lineage? No, because they tend to work for me. And if they
Mm-hmm.
tend to work for me, they might just work for somebody else. But I never, in the years when I've been teaching, I've never taken the attitude of, I have discovered the ultimate move, the ultimate combo. There's no way this is going to work no matter who you fight against. This is guaranteed. I mean, that's so much BS, and that is so immature too. I find that's a mark of immaturity to think that there is any art, system, style, philosophy, religion, whatever it is, that has all the
The
answers.
answers, yeah.
No. Come on, grow up. That's not true. So I caught the Bruce Lee bug, and then I did what people do when you don't live near Dan and Asanto, is through magazines and books. I was able to figure a lot of things out myself until 1985 was another pivotal year for me because that's when I did get to meet Dan and
And this concludes the abbreviated version of the podcast. Please consider supporting the program by going to www.patreon.com/malmag and subscribing to the show. You can also purchase this individual episode or any individual episode at our Gumroad page. That's malmag.gumroad.com. Thank you for listening to this episode with Stephen Mullins. Coming up next week, I get on Zoom and I connect to Cleveland and talk to my good friend, David Hurst. Our Malmag online store at martialartslifestylemagazine.com has a full selection of Timmy B's brand sticks for FMA and Krabiker Bong. Timmy B's brand now selling in Japan as well. Beautiful Timmy B's brand shirts and Dos Manos shirts are available with new t-shirt designs and more products coming soon. An online course in the Dos Manos method for FMA is available under the Courses tab. More courses coming soon. Check out the Places to Train tab to find schools near you, and click on the events calendar page to see what seminars and events are happening all around the world. And of course, visit our main page for articles on the martial arts. Music by Jack L. Relic. Martial Arts Lifestyle Magazine and the Martial Arts Lifestyle Podcast are trademarked and copyrighted by TNT LLC.